Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. It's Monday. That means Austin Brubaker joins. So, Austin, good morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Lots and lots to chew about. Of course, we've already talked about the Julio Urias situation many different times. We've done like the club has, and we've moved on from that. But the latest, the hit, if you will, is the Walker Buehler situation. So let's start right there. Walker Buehler comes out, the club comes out and says that he will be shut down for the remainder of 2023.
Yeah, no, obviously, I think that's a little bit of disappointing news for Dodgers fans. I think they were kind of hoping that Walker Buehler, who very much is kind of a known commodity for a lot of Dodgers fans, would be able to come in, especially with a lot of the injuries, a lot of the struggles. Obviously, Walker Buehler has some long-term reasons why he might not want to pitch. The Dodgers want the best interest in a lot of their players. I think ultimately they came to the decision that it's best for Walker and best for the team probably not to have him pitch this season. I think that's why the decision was made. He is going to be a free agent after next season, so he will be on the Dodgers next season. I think it's important to have him healthy and ready to go as a frontline starting pitcher there. You can obviously free agent Kershaw is not going to be there next year. You have to, or potentially might not be there. I shouldn't make that decision already. Lance Lynn, you're going to have to make a decision on him. So I think ultimately they came to that decision. Now it's up to a lot of these rookies, and we saw what they were able to do this week. Some good, some things to improve on. So that's going to be the direction that the Dodgers move going forward.
Yeah. The Walker Buehler deal, a couple things you mentioned that he's going to be a free agent after next year, which means next year he wants to have full health so he can get that free agent year in and sign the biggest possible contract that he can at the end of that year. We've seen Julio Urias fight that all year long. And then obviously from a club's perspective, you want to make a decision on Walker Buehler as soon as you can because you want to know what your plans have to be for the playoffs. You have a little bit of runway here to kind of figure out what your rotation is going to be, what your starting lineups are going to look like. So you need to know who's going to be available, who is not, immediately right off the bat, so you have the most amount of time to figure those things out. So I think that was the correct decision for both Walker Buehler and the club. Okay, the performances over the weekend. Sheehan on Friday struggled a touch, gave up a home run the first inning. Max Muncy didn't play very good defense at third base to help him. I know both of those infield hits were considered hits, but I think a professional third baseman, I think Max would be the first one to tell you, he could have made a couple of those plays, so that first home run could have been a solo home run, but Sheehan wasn't the best performance for him. And then Bobby Miller, his emotions, he thinks like an ace. I've said this a million times about Bobby Miller. He gets mad when he doesn't execute pitches, just point blank. He thinks that he should execute every pitch. He thinks he should dominate every single hitter. And sometimes, those emotions are a blessing because, you ride that momentum and that adrenaline when things are going good. Sometimes they can be a curse because he can get frustrated and you can see it visibly. So talk about what you thought about Sheehan and Bobby Miller over the weekend.
Yeah, I think we saw a little bit of ups and downs for them. Some good signs, some maybe concerning signs for both of them. With Emmett, you've got some really good swing and miss stuff. It really does hurt when he is not getting a lot of help behind him too, and I think we saw that with some of the defense. I think he's going to be fine. I think they could utilize him in some type of defined role. I think he's going to have a future as a starting pitcher on this team. I don't know if they're going to utilize him in that role in the postseason, as far as what they decide to do with their postseason staff. And then with Bobby Miller, look, both of these guys are pitching well beyond what their innings were in previous seasons, if you look in comparison to last year. So all of this is extra and working on some stuff that they haven't had to go to this length before in their professional careers. And so I think, especially with Bobby Miller still being able to go and give 7 innings, it's still really impressive for him to have. I know that he is hyper competitive, wants to get every single player out every single time, and that is the expectation. That expectation of excellence is something that you want from somebody that you expect to be a really good starting pitcher. He's going to work on his execution. We've seen what he's been able to do this season for the Dodgers. He has been dominant. The Dodgers need him to be dominant, and I fully expect him to make the proper adjustments and continue to improve as he continues his professional career and enters his first season in the postseason.
I call it that dog mentality, that mentality that you just want to dominate everything. And hey, there's a saying that it's easier to slow somebody down than it is to speed them up. If they have that dog mentality, it's easier to control that and get them to understand what actually success is and how to deal with an old saying that Eddie used to tell me, take that frustration and turn it into motivation. Make that frustration make you work a little bit harder to actually execute the next time you're in that situation. So it's easier to slow a guy down than it is to speed them up. So you love it when young guys like Bobby Miller have that dog mentality. Okay, Joe Kelly rehabbed 1.2 innings over the weekend in Rancho. He would be a huge addition to that bullpen.
Yeah, no, he would be something. I mean, obviously the Dodgers made big trade in order to get him. We saw that he was in Rancho in California, able to take pictures, hang out with some of the crowd that is over there, some of the really good crowds, good people that are over there. Getting him back, adding him to this bullpen, even just that clubhouse presence, which I think he really does add to this team, that kind of attitude of winning. I think it's going to be really important. And let's not forget that he's a really good pitcher too. So he's going to add a lot. He is coming back. Getting guys back and healthy at this time of season is something that is really important for your ball club. And those marginal changes, you might think, okay, Joe Kelly might not add a ton, can make a really big difference, because marginal changes, especially in shorter seasons, in shorter series, I should say, are really important for the postseason. So it's really exciting to get him back. You expect him to be healthy, ready to go coming up pretty soon, and they'll be able to utilize him in some pretty high leverage situations.
Gavinstone, they've done this to him twice in anticipation of a possible doubleheader where you get to add that 27th man. He was scheduled to start for AAA Oklahoma City. They took him off of that start. They taxied him to the big club, and then you didn't have a doubleheader. So now you're like, well, Gavinstone just missed a start. What do we do with him? Well, lo and behold, now he gets to start for Clayton Kershaw, who's pushed back to Friday. So super excited to see Gavinstone pitch today.
Oh, yeah. No, every time you get to see Gavinstone pitch, every time he gets that additional experience, additional time to get comfortable at the big league level, you got to be excited about that, because I think he has a big role in the future for this Dodgers rotation, and that could start next year. So the more time that you're able to get him experience, the better that's going to be for him, the better that's going to be for the Dodgers. Continues that Oklahoma City to LA train, which I know can be frustrating for some of the guys, but the more time he's getting him an opportunity to pitch at the big league level, which is all that he can ask for. And so you expect him to go out there, you expect him to learn a lot, hopefully be successful this time.
Is he auditioning for a playoff spot?
I think there is a possibility. I think it's an unlikely possibility with some of the other pitchers that they have that have had more experience at the big league level. But I think Dodgers could use as much pitching help, especially starting rotation pitching help, as they possibly can get. And so all you can ask for is an opportunity to show yourself, an opportunity to prove yourself. And it's very likely that the Dodgers could go with whoever's hot on their roster and whoever's pitching well at that time. And so you have an opportunity, if you're Gavin, to show that you're pitching really well right now, an opportunity to make an audition, perhaps make the postseason rotation and postseason pitching staff, which could be really good for you. So I think you have to take each opportunity and just go with it. Control what you can control, pitch as well as you can, and then let the cards lie as they will.
don't forget that you get to redo your roster in between playoff series. So, hey, if you take on maybe in Atlanta, Lance Lynn has not pitched well against Atlanta. That would be where I think maybe a door would open for a Gavinstone. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. You want to put the best roster that's out there that has the best matchups against whatever team that you're going against. And so looking at some of those matchups, you just because you're off the postseason roster for run series doesn't mean that you won't have an opportunity later on. And I think every opportunity that you have to prove how good you are and be able to get that experience and learn from it, I think is going to be beneficial for you. So really good, important start for Gavin. Excited to see how it goes today.
Ryan Yarbrough had a good start. The Dodgers would take 4 innings from him and just 2 runs, and they would run with that, no doubt about it. Is he too valuable to just make a starter, or is he a possibility of maybe being a starter in the postseason too?
I think it's a possibility. I'd say it's a long possibility because I like the role that they utilize him. I think with each one of these guys, you want to utilize them in the role that best suits them. I think this is why a lot of teams have gone to the platoon matchups. You want to utilize them in the best possible role that they can. And I think with Yarbrough, he has been really good at utilize him at a piggyback start. Now, with a piggyback kind of starter, you can also utilize him on the front end of that too. So I think you can have him go 3-4 innings. I don't think I would necessarily turn him around and have him pitch 5-6 innings. I think you utilize him in that 3 to 4 chunk inning. Let's go ahead, give up 1, maybe 2 runs or no runs. No runs is a little bit better.
That's even better.
And just have him be able to kind of go through one time through the lineup. I think that's going to be best for him. I think that's the situation that the Dodgers have put him in that he's been most successful in. And I think when you're dealing with a limited roster, when you're dealing with a roster that perhaps you didn't necessarily expect to have going into the postseason, you need to take advantage of all of the different matchups that you have, and you want to utilize the guys as best as you possibly can. And the same goes with Yarbrough. And so that's what the role that I would utilize him in.
I think it's extremely valuable to have a guy in your back pocket that you know will come in and throw strikes. I'm just telling you, as a manager, that guy is just invaluable to you when you get in a pinch and you're like, hey, no matter what happens, let's just make the other team beat us right here. Let's not give any free baseball away. Having that guy in your back pocket that you know can come in and is going to fill up the zone, make the other team hit it, you have good defense behind it, I think that guy is very, very valuable. So I think Ryan Yarbrough, whatever position they put him in, is going to be very valuable. But hey, Austin, it's Monday, so you ready for a mailbag?
I sure am.
Okay, it's Monday, fans, so it's time for our Monday mailbag. Time to get to we actually have 6 questions this week. We had a pretty active crowd, so we're going to answer 6 questions that were sent in to us. So the first question, Austin, first of all, you ready?
I sure am. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. The first question number 1 in our mailbag. Do you think James Outman will reach 2020 this year? He has 15 stolen bases, 19 home runs.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And that would be an incredible accomplishment for him. Being able to have that power speed type of guy really does add a lot. And I think that's the direction a lot of the game is moving, is a lot of that power speed combination. I think he definitely gets to 20 home runs and has 19 right now. Just needs 1 more. As far as the stolen bases, I think that's going to be a little bit difficult. You look at some of the teams coming up on the schedule. They have some teams that have been pretty solid at limiting some of the stolen bases. But I think also as you get a little bit closer to the end of the season, I think they could also have the opportunity to let James Outman run, especially if he gets, I think this week he's got to get at least 2 stolen bases to really have that 2020 season in sight. Mm-hmm. I think he's got a real opportunity to. I don't necessarily know if he's going to get there exactly just with the matchups that they have coming up. But also, the Dodgers could also just let him run a couple of times just to see if he can get to that mark, especially getting closer to the end. I think Atlanta probably will get that number 1 spot. I think as long as the Dodgers have that clear number 2 spot and able to get that first round bye, I think you could see some of these fun number stats come up. So we'll see if he's able to do that. I'll be certainly pulling for him. I know both you and I will.
The thing about it that he has going for him, okay, in his last 7 games, his on-base percentage is .480. In his last 15 games, his on-base percentage is .405. Or actually, that's in his last 30. He's .448 in his last 15 and .480 in his last 7. So he's been getting on base in the last week or so almost exactly half the time. And with his speed, hey, that gives him a lot of opportunities to steal bases. So if he continues to get on base at that clip, again, let me say that again, last 7 games, .480 on base percentage, last 15 games, .448, and then last 30, .405. If he continues to get on base at that clip, he will reach 20 stolen bases because, like you said, the division is going to be wrapped up. The best record in the National League is going to be wrapped up, and the Dodgers are going to give him chances to run just to see if he can get to 20. Hey, one more home run, that's not a guarantee, but it looks like he's going to get there, so that will be super exciting. Okay, mailbag question number 2. We saw Ryan Yarbrough, we've seen Alex Vesia, we've seen Caleb Ferguson, we've seen them all. Which left-handed reliever for the Dodgers would you trust the most with the game on the line in the playoffs? Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. No, this is a really good question because obviously I mentioned earlier that you want to utilize the matchups that you best possibly can for your postseason staff. And I think with a lot of these, I think it's going to come down to kind of who's hot, but also history does have a way of kind of showing kind of who is best. And so when you're talking about these postseason spots, you're talking about really high leverage situations. And so I think with 2 of these guys, I think it's going to really come down to Ferguson and Vesia. Who do you feel as best for those roles? And I think history, at least this season, shows who they are likely to go to with that. And so if you just look at innings pitched in high leverage situations this season, and you look at Alex Vesia, he has 5 innings pitched in high leverage situations. Whereas Ferguson, if you look at his splits, he has 17 innings. Oh. And if you look at some of the success that they've had in those situations, Ferguson has been more successful this season in high leverage situations. Vesia, he's been a little bit more successful in some of those lower leverage situations. Perhaps there's not a lot of runners on. Maybe the Dodgers have a lead. I think you have to utilize these guys as best as you can in the roles that they are successful in. Now, it could be certain that those splits indicate some early season effect. And so I think what you're going to see over the course of the next month or so as we lead up to the postseason, I think you got to throw Vesia in there in some high leverage situations, see how he does as far as getting batters out, getting some left-handers out. With Ferguson, I think we've seen him be more successful this season. And so I think that would be an indicator of why he might be the guy to be put in as far as a left-hander late in the game, high leverage situation. You need a couple guys out versus Vesia, where you want him to be put in a situation where he can be as successful as possible. That can change over the course of the next month, though, depending on who's hot.
If you're in a situation to where you have the matchups, maybe it's the bottom of the lineup, and, hey, you just need strikes. When you say high leverage, maybe a 2-run lead, maybe a 1-run lead. I think with a situation to where you emphasize strikes over everything else, I think you consider Ryan Yarbrough there because he's going to come in, he's going to fill the strike zone up, he's going to make guys hit ground balls. You're going to get outs there. If it's a situation to where you're facing the best hitters, you need a strikeout, you need something like that, you need the explosive stuff. I think that becomes, at that point, Caleb Ferguson. Alex Vesia, we'll see. I don't even think I could give you a guess as to how the club's going to use him. Anywhere from not on the roster at all to what role he might be. I think he's a total wild card. I totally agree with you that the club needs to explore exactly what they have in him more in the next month. So that will be interesting. What a great question that was.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and I think I think the reason why I might choose Ferguson over Yarbrough, I think Yarbrough is going to be really valuable as more perhaps as some insurance for some of these rookie pitchers. I think that's especially as a
great point.
Piggyback type starter. You don't necessarily know how some of these rookies are going to react to the postseason. Lights are bright. I think we expect the best for him, but I think he could be something that's really valuable as kind of insurance with that. And so I think that's, if you're looking for a ground ball, Yarbrough is the guy to go. I think he's shown that. But I also think it's important to have him in your back pocket just in case something happens with the rookie. You need that 3 to 4 innings just to keep yourself in the game. And so I think how they're going to utilize him, how they're going to utilize some of their left-handed pitching, which is kind of limited, is going to be really important. And we're going to be finding out pretty soon.
Can't wait to see Alec Gamboa at the major league level. Won't be this year, but boy, he has had just a wonderful year. He had an easy save. Actually got his first save at AAA last year, but he has had just a tremendous year. He's reached as high as 99. Alec Gamboa has been fantastic. So let's get to our next mailbag question. Okay, and I saved this from the show notes because I knew it was a question, but do you think that Clayton Kershaw getting pushed back to Friday is injury related?
That's a really good question. I think it very well likely could be at least somewhat injury related, or at least to try to keep him as healthy as possible. We saw last week a dip in velocity. That is always a concerning sign when you're dealing with your starting pitchers. This team needs Kershaw to be healthy going into the postseason, and the more innings that he's pitching, I think the more bullets that he's kind of throwing. That could be something that you don't necessarily want him to do just with his age, with his health, how he's been. I think this is a little bit of a precautious move, especially because I don't necessarily think the Dodgers are fighting for that number 1 seed in the postseason. I think they're right now just focused on trying to find answers. I think they're in a answer seeking mode. I think they're just trying to settle the team down, settle the clubhouse down after everything that they've been through. So I think with that, I think it's precautionary. I don't necessarily see that as the most concerning sign as opposed to some dip in velocity. I think they're just trying to keep him as healthy and ready to go for the postseason, because that's where they're going to really need him to be.
Yep, I totally agree with you. I think it's to avoid injury. I think, hey, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Hey, if you're hurt, that means something's painful, but we can still play. If you're injured, that means you can't play anymore. I think Clayton Kershaw is hurt right now. He's not injured, so they have the ability to hold him out to keep him from getting injured, and I think that's what this decision has to do with. And I think they also see just how valuable he is going to be in the postseason. They desperately need him to be that number 1 guy, so they're going to do everything they can to make him as healthy as they can for the postseason. So another great question. Here's another heavy hitter coming up next, Austin. What has been the key to Jason Hayward's turnaround this year?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. And we've seen him be really successful. I think it comes down to a couple of different things. Obviously, I'm not a hitting coach, so I don't necessarily know the ins and outs, but I know the Dodgers have some of the best hitting coaches out there. And so I think getting him in a room, getting him in a different environment, obviously he had gotten used to kind of the Chicago environment. I think just putting him with some different coaches that are trying different things really did help him. And I also think kind of the theme of something that I've been talking about a lot with this show, putting him in situations where he is able to be successful. The Dodgers have almost exclusively utilized him against right-handed pitching. And I think with that, when you use him in that platoon role, just have him focus on certain things, perhaps shorten some of the swings, or make adjustments to some of the swings, and put him in a position where he's going to best succeed. I think that's a large part of the reason why we've seen some of the turnaround. We also know that he has a ton of talent too. And when you have a ton of talent, put him in a new situation, new environment, oftentimes we've seen in the past that lead to some success. And I think with Jason Hayward, you're seeing some of that, all of the ramifications of just the talent he has, the coaches the Dodgers have, and them being able to best utilize him, put him in situations that he's been able to succeed.
So when you're hitting the baseball, a lot of guys like to hit the ball out front because that gives you more momentum with your barrel. So whenever the barrel meets the baseball, that's a collision. So if the barrel wins that collision, then you're going to hit the baseball hard, right? If the baseball wins the collision, then you're going to have weak contact. So a lot of guys, they need that momentum because they're not strong enough. So with a guy like Jason Hayward, he is so strong that he doesn't have to have the momentum for that barrel to win the collision with the baseball. Does that make sense? Because his hands are so strong, his forearms are so strong, he's already creating that force towards the baseball. So what the Dodgers did, in my opinion, early on, is they backed his timing up, and they made him think left center field, which is the opposite field gap. And then, hey, if he's a little bit early, then he can hit the ball to right field. And what that does for you, if you think of that swing like an airplane landing and then taking back off, that kind of gets you right in the part of your swing where you're coming down just a little bit and then flattening out. So the deeper you think about your timing, the more likely it is that you're going to catch the ball when you're either coming down at it or when you're flat at it. The more you hit it out front, the more likely it is you're going to catch the ball on the way up, which is another reason why guys like to hit the baseball out front, is because it's on the way up in your swing, and that's where you hit your fly balls. So I think his ability to have the amount of strength to let the ball get deep, and then his, selling out to the fact that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all spring training to figure out this timing mechanism. I think that changed the world for Jason Hayward. I think it just naturally fixed the mechanics of it as far as the part of the swing he was hitting the baseball with, and then also, he was physically capable to do it. So when you add that with all of the stuff that you're talking about, hey, just the new environment, the new coaches, the matchups that the Dodgers were able to get him in, I think it's all been put together as just a wildly successful situation. And I think he knew that was going to happen when he came to the Dodgers, and that's why guys like him choose the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's exactly why guys like him choose the Dodgers, and he's added a ton to this team. He's just not just against right-handed pitching, but also in the clubhouse too. And so you got to be extremely happy that the Dodgers were able to pick him up when they did and he doesn't cost a lot too. So overall, just a phenomenal signing and phenomenal addition to this clubhouse.
Oh, here's one that we're going to have fun with, Austin. Okay, which player at the minor league level this year has increased his stock the most?
Whew. Man, there's a lot to be said. Obviously, you can see with the picture, if you haven't watched the show necessarily before, live in Midland, or don't live in Midland, but live in Michigan area, go to a lot of the Great Lakes Loons, high affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. There's a lot to be said about this club. Obviously, they have the postseason coming up this week. I'm sure we'll get into that. It's coming up pretty soon. And so I'm sure we'll get into a lot of these different guys and a lot of guys that I have had the privilege to be able to watch their games. There's a lot of guys that have increased their stock, a lot of guys that have improved some of their kind of overall standing and overall value, or have shown their value that necessarily for a lot of these guys, they haven't had the opportunity to show at the professional level. A couple guys I'll go ahead and highlight. Obviously, didn't get to 60 steals this year, but Taylor Young, just the leadership that he has and the baseball instincts from a guy that didn't necessarily have a huge signing bonus, didn't necessarily have the biggest stock in the world. He has been the leader of this team, the leader of the clubhouse, somebody that has been very successful on the field too. But his leadership skills are something that this team would not have been successful.
That was not a strike, by the way, the other night.
I'll
just leave it right there.
Oh, yeah, that was not a strike. No, and yeah, No, we'll leave it at that. His just everything with that has been just incredible to watch, and I'm sure we'll get more into that as we get a little bit as the season ends, hopefully in a week and a half with the championship. Another guy offensively, Griffin Lockwood-Powell, just been phenomenal at the plate. We saw the cycle, but just his ability to draw walks, ability to hit for power. He's been extremely solid and has only gotten better as the summer has gone along. And then you look at a lot of guys up and down the staff, from the left-handed starting pitchers, from relief arms. Jack Dreyer has been phenomenal recently. And here's a guy that I believe he was an undrafted free agent, and he's been probably their best reliever that they have had, or one of their best relievers, I should say. Just phenomenal. Benoni Robles has increased his stock too, and they've utilized him in a lot of high leverage situations. There's a lot of guys. I know the question was, who's one guy who has really improved his stock? Well, the reality is a lot of these guys have improved their stock, and there's a lot of guys that I'm sure we'll get into as we go more into the off season, get a little bit of kind of a recap. Those are just some of my initial thoughts from a lot of the guys that I've seen this season.
Yeah, Jack Dreyer was an undrafted free agent out of Iowa in the year, I believe, 2018 is when the Dodgers signed him. Fought injury. He's finally back, and boy, that curveball, he has been striking everybody out. He's kind of this year's version of Ben Harris, if you will, if you remember Ben Harris striking everybody out last year. So, okay, moving up to Tulsa, the guys I think that have increased their stock the most, Emil Vargas. We've seen his on-base percentages. Now, the average is just 254, but he has 20 home runs, which when we combine that with all the on-base percentages he's had in the past, he led the Midwest League and when he was with the Loons in on-base percentage for a year and a half straight. So we know he can get on base. Now he's hitting home runs. I think that combination between the two will impress the Dodgers and other clubs too in a trade scenario. Obviously, Austin Gauthier, you mentioned his WRC plus numbers. They've been simply incredible. And then the guy that may be flying under the radar, Ricky Vanasco. 17 out of 18 outings he's gone scoreless. He's hitting 98. I think he hit 99. I can't confirm that, though, but at least I can confirm 98 yesterday. 17 out of 18 scoreless, super hyper-focused. You know, I messaged him to do an interview, and he was like, hey, no problem, but, hey, I'm focused. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let this guy be until the season's over. Let him focus up and get his job done. So I may hit him up in the postseason. Or in the offseason. But the guy I think of course, you have him at Sheehan and Bobbymiller. We're not talking about the guys that have already made the major leagues. We're talking about guys who haven't had a chance to pitch in the major leagues yet. Those are the guys that, as far as my criteria, the guy I think that has increased his stock the most, Kylehurt. He has had just a wonderful year. 145 strikeouts, 88.1 innings, 3.87 ERA. His average against is 2.04. 41 strikeouts in those innings, so the strikeouts still need to come down, no doubt about it. And he mentioned in my interview with him the other day, it's all about repeating his delivery. So I said the strikeouts, the base on balls, they need to come down a touch, but boy, he has absolutely just struck everybody out this year, and I think he's opened up a lot of eyes.
Yeah, he's definitely opened up a lot of eyes, and he's opened a spot for him on this 40-man roster going into next season, whether that's on the Dodgers or he would be the first overall pick in the Rule 5 draft coming up if the Dodgers don't add him to the roster. So, man, you talk about, obviously, you want more strikeouts with Kylehurt. It's about repeating that delivery, limiting some of the walks that he has, but his stuff is explosive. And this continues to show that the Dodgers have starting pitchers just coming up like nobody else as far as the talent that they have, which I know there's a lot of concern right now because a lot of the guys that they have relied on in the past have been hurt, that are going to be leaving free agency, might be moving on. They have a lot of talent coming up through the system. Exciting to see.
I think the guy that might be right there with him would be Alec Gamboa. Alec Gamboa, this was a year where the rubber met the road. His ERA is under 3. Strikeouts are up. Walks are down. Alec Gamboa has been fantastic. John Rooney as well. Gus Varnum, we saw, made the major leagues. Hey, Nick Robertson, by the way, he threw an inning last night for Boston. Congratulations to him. He looked dominant in that inning. That was super fun to watch. So Alec Gamboa, John Rooney, they've been fantastic as well. And then another guy I wanted to mention also was Landon Knack, who's had a good year, very motivated, wanted to prove to everybody that, hey, don't forget about me, man. I'm still, there's a reason why I was one of the top prospects. So all those guys have had great years, but I think the strikeout stuff, I think Kylehurt maybe a couple months ago, it was teeter-tottering whether he would be put on the 40-man. That's been slam dunked. You have to, because like you said, you're going to lose them for absolutely nothing, and somebody else is going to get just a tremendous pitcher in return. Hey, I think I'm going to save that last mailbag question for a show on Wednesday, either Wednesday morning if you can join, or because the playoffs are starting, or Wednesday night for a Dodgers Dog Show if we do it. So we're going to save that question because that was what are you looking forward to for the upcoming playoffs for the minor leagues. But we're running out of time for tonight, Austin, so final thoughts.
Yeah, no, with the big league club, obviously they're still looking for some answers. This is the time to get those answers right now. I think you kind of have a clear role that you want to have going into the playoffs. I think you kind of want that number. Obviously, you'd want the number 1 seed. I don't think that's realistic at this point. I think you're looking for that number 2 postseason seed. And so with that, I think you can get some answers as far as what you're going to need to do for the starting pitching. I think you can have some of these rookies battle it out in healthy competition to see who's going to be a part of that starting rotation. So right now it's about finding a lot of answers. It's a good time to be a Dodgers fan. I know the world seems to be falling apart. I know it seems to be like your team is. Look, you still got a ton of talent. You still got a roster that is going to compete, that still is probably going to be favored in that first round. It's going to be tough against Atlanta, but with postseason baseball, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. And so with this, take every opportunity that you have. Enjoy everything that is happening, because this not only is good for this season, it's good for future seasons too, because you're getting a lot of guys experience. And then if you look at the minor league level this week, obviously you kind of mentioned it. Great Lakes and Rancho are starting their playoffs starting tomorrow on Tuesday. Great Lakes will be in Fort Wayne. I will be there for that game. I will be there for all of the playoffs that they have. Rancho is going to be in Inland Empire, take on the Angels affiliate. So you have a couple of rivalries, Dodgers, Padres.
And they'll have video, thank goodness. Yeah.
Yes, I know. We'll have Dodgers versus Padres at the high A affiliate. We'll have Dodgers versus Angels at the low A affiliate. These guys have worked incredibly hard this entire season. So if you're anywhere in that area, highly encourage you guys, go and support these teams. Go and support them as they battle for the playoffs, because in this organization, it really does matter. Winning does matter in this organization at every single level, not just because you like to win, but it's important to build that culture of winning throughout the organization. Which
Scott Hennessy's told me as much.
Yes. And
LA manager.
Yes. And that's how they're going to go this postseason. These teams are motivated. These teams are hungry. They want to win. And the more people that they can have behind them, I've talked to a lot of these guys, it means the world to them. And so go out there. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, they'll be in Fort Wayne Tuesday, 6:35 start time Eastern, 3:35 Pacific. They'll be in Inland Empire on Tuesday. I don't necessarily know the start time. I guess would be maybe 7:05 Pacific, sometime around there. Go out and support these teams. They're going to need some help, but they've got a ton of talent. They've got a good opportunity to win.
Tulsa did not make the playoffs, so they have one more series this week at home. Then they will be done, so 6 more games for them. And then Oklahoma City, they go all the way in, I believe, into October. So they continue to play. So still a lot of minor league action to get to. But, hey, this has been a great mailbag show. So let's not waste more time. Let's get right to it. Let's take a trip down on the farm. The AAA Oklahoma City Dodgers finished another 4-2 week. They have had just a great season. This is Yorbit Vivas that you're seeing right here. Hey, if you go to my social media, you can listen to the entire. It was really cool. Alex Friedman, the play-by-play voice of the Oklahoma City Dodgers, he synced up his audio to the play. On the MiLB app, you get the home team's feed, but he synced it up where you can hear him describe the last hit, which was the triple for Yarbrough Vivas. Not very often do you get the triple last. That's a lot of dramatics to do that. That's really cool for Yarbrough Vivas. But Oklahoma City, they've had a wonderful season. They have qualified for the playoffs already. They will continue to play all the way through September. Tulsa has one more. They have one more week left, one more 6-game series. Great Lakes is in the playoffs this week, so it's coming to an end. But like I said, Oklahoma City, they will continue to play. And Yarbrough Vivas, he got promoted a couple of weeks ago, and he has been playing very, very well, including this cycle this past week in Sugar Land. So congratulations to Yarbrough Vivas. Want to show you 34-year-old James Jones. He threw 2 scoreless innings on Friday, I believe it was, for AAA Oklahoma City. He was an outfielder. I've talked about him a couple of times. I wanted to mention him one more time as we continue to go on here. Got a good look at him just a week ago on Sunday, so that would be a week ago Sunday. James Jones, 34-year-old outfielder, had the big arm, the good body, and he's pitched in the past. He's like, hey, give me one more shot. There's Bryson Brigman, shortstop, just released a feature on him and an interview. What a wonderful young man. Plays a whole bunch of different positions. What a story it would be if James Jones can make the major leagues just one day as a pitcher. That would be one of the most incredible stories you've ever heard. You saw the good tail right there. There's a good look at him. Good extension with the left arm. He's had a decent year for AAA Oklahoma City, so rooting hard for James Jones to finally reach his dreams one day and make the major leagues. Brian Hudson has been simply fantastic at the AAA level. He's kind of gone up and down. He's been on that up and down train that the Dodgers like to do when they have guys with options, and it's tough to get comfortable at the major league level. He's been obviously a lot better at the AAA level with a defined role, with consistent pitching time. Hey, the PCL is a very difficult league. Many times guys go up to the major leagues and actually have more success at the major league level, at least early on, than they do at the PCL level, because you're talking about altitudes, in Albuquerque and all those different places, Reno, Salt Lake City, and it's just a very hitter-friendly league. So, a lot of times it's a very difficult league to pitch in. So more so than just the transition between major leagues and AAA, because a lot of times you're talking about major league veterans. For instance, J.D. Martinez was in the lineup just the other night for AAA Oklahoma City. Walker Buehler pitched. So you're dealing with guys that are on rehab at the AAA level. You're dealing with major league type hitters. A lot of guys that have major league experience and good major league experience that are just back down working on whatever it may be. Like a Kevin Pillar from last year. The Dodgers have guys like that all the time. Pat Valleca is on their team. Steven Duggar, guys like that. So it is a very good league. And, Brian Hudson has shown that he has the talent, the length, and he is good and has been good at the AAA level when he has a defined role and pretty much knows when he's going to pitch from day to day. ERA 2.59 with AAA Oklahoma City, 78 strikeouts, 48.2 innings. He's gone scoreless in 3 outings in a row. So Brian Hudson, the 6'8" lefty. Second time this year that Gavinstone was scratched as a starting pitcher for AAA Oklahoma City. I kind of do and I kind of don't. I can't give up my sources here, but I can tell you the last time this happened, there was the threat of weather. The Dodgers thought that there might be the chance of having a doubleheader the next day, which that would have been yesterday. And so they went ahead and took Gavinstone off of the start for the AAA club and brought him up to taxi with the Major League club in case there was a doubleheader and you get that 27th guy on the roster. That would have been Gavinstone. Didn't end up having a doubleheader, didn't end up needing him, and so he just ended up losing his start at the AAA level. But that's okay. He's towards the end of the year. He's throwing well, and he probably could use the break anyway. So instead, Tyson Miller, the young man that we just saw that got brought back to the Dodgers, the Dodgers had him, put him at the Major League level. They DFA'd him. The Mets took him. The Mets threw him a couple of times, DFA'd him. The Dodgers got him back, immediately sent him to the Major League club. He threw 2 scoreless innings. They DFA'd him again, and he accepted the assignment this time. With the Mets, he rejected the minor league assignment. He chose to be a free agent, and the Dodgers picked him up at that point. He accepted the assignment with the Dodgers because he's from the SoCal area, went to Cal Baptist there in Riverside, California, and just wants to be a part of the Dodgers organization. So Tyson Miller, he got the start instead of Gavinstone. He went 2 innings. It was more of an open than it was a start, and he went 2.1 scoreless innings, I should say, 2 1/3, 4 strikeouts, ERA at the AAA level for Tyson Miller, 0.96. I actually had a chance last Sunday to talk to him as he was leaving. What a wonderful young man. I've set up an interview with him next time I go to Oklahoma City, so super excited about that, to talk to him and look at that breaking ball there, to get to know him. I don't know a whole lot about him. I didn't follow him much before he became a Dodger, so super excited to dive into that and hear his story and his background and all of that. Tyson Miller. I've been saying for a while, the results train is getting ready to roll into town for left-handed pitcher, 6'5", out of Scotticoke, New York, John Rooney, and it has arrived, and it's on time. He is throwing the ball better than he ever has. He's taken this entire year to really refine his mix, and he's added and he's subtracted. He subtracted the four-seam, he added the cutter, he subtracted the changeup for a while, he's added that back, so he's added and subtracted. He finally has a mix now that he is in total control of. 2.2 scoreless innings, no walks, just 1 hit. Lots of weak contact. Yesterday, it would have been Saturday. ERA 3.13 at the AAA level. He's given up just 1 run in his last 10 innings. There's Michael Busch, who just recently got sent back down when J.D. Martinez came off of the DL. I guess it's the IL nowadays. I'm going to have DL on my mind forever. But, hey, John Rooney doing a great job for AAA Oklahoma City. I mentioned that Tanner Dotson can be a wild ride sometimes. He's like that bull that you're trying to break, and sometimes they can win the race, because they're the fastest, most aggressive bull there, but then sometimes they kind of get out of control and they can end up in Canada. You never know which one you're going to get from day to day. That can be Tanner Dotson from day to day. It can be Tanner Dotson from pitch to pitch. He was effectively wild Saturday. He was, at the same time, super wicked with his stuff. He had 3 walks. This is an example. Tanner Dotson had 3 walks, but yet he did not give up a run in his 2 innings of work. That just goes to show you how effectively wild he can be, just how good his stuff is, and how difficult it is to hit, because you don't know where it's going to be as a hitter. You can't dig in. Since he's been promoted to AAA after having a good year in Tulsa, he has posted an ERA of 3.91. So wanted to give you a good look there at Tanner Dotson. Jimmy Nelson is another pitcher in the Dodgers organization we know all about right there. That's been his problem. Has not been able to throw enough strikes. His slider, when it's like that, is very, very, very good when it's in the zone and it gets a lot of outs. It would get a lot of major league outs, but his issue has been walking too many people. As a matter of fact, 27 walks in 26.2 innings. I don't say that as, necessarily a criticism. I say that only to say, if he could just clean up that aspect of his game and land that slider in the zone, his slider looks great. For instance, his slider had 41 inches of vertical drop to it, and it was in the zone Saturday night 71% of the time. If he can just duplicate that right there, which he would be the first one to tell you, it's easy, that right there. If he can just do that right there, repeat that delivery over and over and over, he could really help the Major League club. But as of right now, got to get control of the walks, so we will keep our eye on Jimmy Nelson. We saw Gus Varland go on the IL today. Wander Suero, the Dodgers selected his contract, so he'll be back up at the Major League level. Look for that cutter. Not a whole, not incredible velo, 91, 92, 93, but the cutter is fantastic for Wander Suero. So another guy that's kind of in that category for me is Mike Montgomery, a guy with Major League experience that the Dodgers are keeping around just in case they need a veteran arm to fill in, maybe even on a postseason roster. Now, I know that's kind of a far-stretched idea, and I'm not saying that's going to happen or even likely to happen, but the way this year has gone, you never know, and it's always good to keep the veterans around like Mike Montgomery, especially when he pitches like he did on Sunday, going 6 scoreless innings. His breaking ball, I've seen it many times in person. His breaking ball is big. He struck out 6 on Sunday, walked just 2, gave up just 2 hits. So, kind of like, Wander Suero, for matter of fact, he's up. But kind of like Jimmy Nelson, Ken Giles, guys like that, we will keep our eye on Mike Montgomery, veteran left-hander. The big breaking ball of Trevor Betancourt was on display Sunday afternoon. He went 1 2/3 innings. He struck out 2. And boy, the last pitch of the video, if you go to my social media, hopefully we get to it here right there. That one's actually not the last one, but his breaking ball is absolutely a dynamic pitch. That one, wow, that is quite a pitch. You know, in professional baseball, these guys are so good that it takes something just miraculous to actually stand out because everything is so good. But his breaking ball, when he throws it like he did on that strikeout pitch, it stands out. So, hey, although Trevor Betancourt, you know, he's 94, 95. He doesn't throw the 100 like you like in the late inning leverage type or lever type guys. When you have that type of breaking ball and you can shape it in different directions and, you know, shape it in different shapes, right there you can make it smaller to get it in for a strike, or you can make it bigger like we've seen right there for strike out pitches. When you can do that, you're going to get kept around, and as he will tell you right there, that's a great pitch. He's just trying to see how good he can get. Sunday was quite possibly the easiest 3 outs that a left-hander out of Madtown, Alec Gamboa, has ever recorded. First save at the AAA level. When I saw that I had to take a double take, surely that's not his first save, but, you know, usually he's that guy that's throwing 2 to 3 innings. He's very versatile, different roles, and he's had just a wonderful year, so I assume that, hey, it's got to be more than one save, but, you know, he got brought up, a couple months ago. He got brought up for about a week or two to AAA, got sent back down. The AAA Dodgers just needed an arm for a bit, got sent back down, then sent back up, and he has had just a wonderful year. 2.57 ERA at the AAA level for Alec Gamboa, 2.41 ERA overall, and he's gone 4 outings in a row. Scoreless. What a great year that Alec Gamboa is having in 2023. Super proud of the young man that challenged himself at the beginning of this year, and he has rose to that challenge. Haven't reported on a right-handed slugger, Brandon Lewis. Look at that sweet swing, man. Let's back that up. I love when his swing goes right. Had a chance to communicate with him, and I just simply told him, hey, this is the best your swing has looked in a long, long time. Look how balanced he is. You know, hey, his body's not moving a whole lot, got the foot down. Everything is what I call very soft, and he's getting his hands to the ball. There's a slot right there at 0 degrees, and what I want you to notice right here, that knob is pointing exactly at the baseball. Both eyes on the ball right here. Head is what I call over the ball. Okay, he's not leaning behind the ball, certainly not behind the ball here. I call this being over the ball when your head is right here in this position over the ball to here. And from here, all he's got to do now is take that top end. He's got to take that top end and snap it through the ball. See that top end? How he turns that barrel? You can either call it snap. You know, it's pull snap. You pull with the bottom hand. Or you can call it, turn the barrel, whichever one you want to do. But either way, you're either snapping with that top end or you're turning the barrel right there. And he turned that barrel perfectly, got it in position to where when he did turn the barrel, it was super easy for him. And if you go in full motion here at regular time, look how easy this is for him. I mean, that's just easy and free and smooth. So don't look at the statistics this year. Just look at the potential. Brandon Lewis, a corner infielder. The Dodgers will not give up on this guy because of that swing right there. It's too free. It's too easy. It is too smooth. There's too much potential in that. It's just too easy for him to hit home runs like that. And if you remember, just a couple of years ago, he hit more home runs per at bat than any other Dodger in the minor league system, and that's why. That is a beautiful swing. So, hey, I messaged and said, hey, I think your swing looks better right now than it has in a long, long time. And he said, hey, I'm just looking to find it. So, and I think he has. So, Brandon Lewis, I'm excited about, of course, there's only one more season left. Tulsa did not make the playoffs, but I'm excited about where his swing is at right now. Emmanuel Vargas, we always have known that he's great at getting on base, but man, how about this power right here? Emmanuel Vargas, he hit 18 2 years ago, 17 2 years ago, 18 last year. He has had 20 home runs this year. So Emmanuel Vargas has added a good amount of power to his game, and that is, that's a part of his game, that being a corner infielder. That's going to make the difference, at least in this system, whether he makes the major leagues or not as he goes on, because we know, like we said, he can grind pitch counts. He's got that part of the formula for the Dodgers. We know that he can get on base. He has that part of the formula for the Dodgers, and now he's hitting home runs, driving runs from that perspective. So Emmanuel Vargas is having a very good year at the AA level. Can't give it up to Braden Fisher anymore, man. I mean, gosh, this guy has just been absolutely awesome. He's been, look at that breaking ball. That thing is big time. He has, he's been every single role. There's another big-time breaking ball. He's had a couple of outings where he's only had to throw one inning, and it has really showed. And, boy, I tell you what, man, that breaking ball, like I said, big-time, impressive. 12th time he's had at least 3 strikeouts in an outing. And although most of his outings have been more than 1 inning, okay, none of his outings have been more than 2.2 outings. As a matter of fact, there's only been 1 outing this year for Braden Fisher that has been more than 2 innings, and it was on April 30th, and it was only 2 2/3 innings. And despite that, he has had at least 3 strikeouts in an outing 12 different times, and he's had 7 outings with 4 or more strikeouts. So, man, this dude, he has been reliable. He has been an absolute rock, and he has been explosive with the strikeouts, and he has been super effective with a 2.95 ERA. So what a great year for the League City native, Braden Fisher. Great start for Kendall Williams in that split change on Sunday. That slider right there, that's a great pitch. So you got the left turn of the slider. You got the whatever the split finger change decides to do, mostly a right turn to that. There's that split finger right there. What a great pitch for him. He went 5 2/3 innings. He gave up just 1 run, had 4 strikeouts. He gave up just 2 walks. So Kendall Williams, a young man out of Olive Branch, Mississippi, ended up at IMG Academy in Florida to finish up his high school career. He got drafted by the Blue Jays. The Dodgers traded for him. He has an ERA this year of 3.97 at the AA level. His ERA is 3.57 overall between High A, Great Lakes, and Tulsa. His average against is just 1.96. So good year for Kendall Williams. A fantastic performance on Sunday afternoon. I keep saying it. Put Ricky Vanasco on your radar. This dude is hyper-focused, and he is good. He was touching at least 98. He may have touched a 9 once or twice. I can't verify that, and so don't quote me on that, but I can verify he was hitting the 8. He was throwing at least 98 with that big slider right there, and he recorded his 17th scoreless outing in his last 18 that he's gone out for the AA Tulsa Drillers. And Ricky Vanasco has an ERA with Tulsa of just 1.59. His average against is just 1.59 as well. So an ERA of 1.59, an average against of 1.59, and he has 36 strikeouts in 23.2 innings. And like I said, his fastball was touching 98. I think it touched 9. Can't verify that, though. The slider was big time. Ricky Vanasco, look at that pitch. Super hyper-focused, super hyper-talented. I absolutely cannot wait to watch Maddox Bruns. Hey, by the way, West Michigan, where the Loons were at this week, they were fighting for their playoff spot. They had to face Jackson Jobe twice, which is one of their huge pitching prospects, of which Jackson Jobe, I've got a chance to watch him many, many times. I actually coached against him, unfortunately, when he was at Heritage Hall there in Oklahoma City while he was in high school. He is just unbelievable. And, by the way, the Loons beat him twice. Incredible, because he is so good. Maddox Bruns, boy, I cannot wait to see him in AA Tulsa. He has been just simply absolutely fantastic for the High A Great Lakes Loons. And the thing about him, he's always had the pitch mix. He's always been super nasty. He's always had the swing and miss type stuff. And it's always been about command and getting it in the strike zone enough to where it's actually effective in getting good hitters, to not walking people and then getting good hitters to actually entice to get swing and miss like that right there. So great start for Maddox Bruns, 3 scoreless. He had 4 strikeouts, and check this out. Here's the big one. No walks for Maddox Bruns, just 1 hit. So he's able to keep the explosiveness with just the 1 hit with the 4 strikeouts, but he's able to do that while eliminating the walks with 0 bases on balls. Bruns has 126 strikeouts, 97 innings, and his average against is just 2.13. So, hey, great job, Maddox Bruns. Good luck in the playoffs. The Great Lakes Loons start the playoff series this week. Austin Brubaker will be there for all of it. He will be keeping us informed. I'm pumped about that, and I cannot wait for the Loons in the playoffs. And great job, Maddox Bruns. Franklin De La Paz threw a scoreless inning for Great Lakes. I believe this was on Friday. He had 2 strikeouts and no walks. There's another one, no walks. What a great job Dave Anderson has done with these pitchers figuring out their mix. Hey, Dalton Rushing, too, I want to give him a shout out about, he's not just a hitter. This guy, he takes all these different personalities. He takes all these different pitch mixes, and he's meshed them together, and he's really made the staff feel comfortable and made it all look seamless. Very impressed with the job that Dalton Rushing has done handling the staff and catching on the defensive side of the ball. Franklin De La Paz, he had 2 strikeouts, no walks. He's gone scoreless in 5 outings in a row, 6 of his last 7, and he has 11 strikeouts in his last 8 innings. So De La Paz has been pitching very, very well. Lucas Webb gave the Loons a good 2-inning relief performance on Saturday. He gave up a run. He had 3 strikeouts. Again, here's that theme. No walks for these Loons hitters. Hey, the 2 things that I said, one of our mailbags a while back that we had a question, what things do you think they need to improve on? The minor leagues, hey, they need to throw more strikes and they need to control the running game a little bit better. At least, hey, one of those things is happening at the Great Lakes level as far as throwing more strikes, not walking hitters. That's the theme. You've seen it here as of late. No walks, 3 strikeouts for Lucas Webb, and he has a whip of 115 on the year, 88 Ks, 58.1 innings, so a lot of strikeout stuff and an average against of just 214. So great job, Lucas Webb. Originally out of Canada, went to UL Monroe, and here he is at the high A Great Lakes level for the Loons. It's been a grinder for Damon Keith. He's had to fight injury and this and that, and he had 2 hits for Great Lakes on Saturday, which was great to see, including double number 21. You get to see that great speed from Damon Keith. That was his 22nd multi-hit game of the year. Young man is so talented offensively. So, hey, looking forward to his career, looking forward to how he performs in the playoffs, moving into next year, and super excited to watch him play in Tulsa. This is Sunday's action for the High A Great Lakes Loons. Actually, this is Saturday night's action. Nick Biddison destroyed this home run, 8th home run of 2023, and that was his 39th RBI. The young man, very talented. Great, mix of speed and power. The Dodgers like those guys that have the ability to hit for power and also are just great athletes. Jose Ramos, Damon Keith, guys like that have the ability to do both of those things. 8th home run for Nick Biddison. He's that guy out of Virginia Tech that is that great combo. So very talented, great combo of speed and power. And you saw it right there. That long ball he just hit, he destroyed that pitch. So good to see Nick Biddison playing well for the High A Great Lakes Loons. All right, continuing on our theme of throwing strikes, Christian Suarez. I've said it many times. Look at that 4-seam up and the left-handed slider to the back door, and then the left-handed slider to the back foot. You didn't see it there. That's another 4-seam up, but he has that back foot slider that is fantastic as well. There's the 4-seam riding in on the hands. I've said it I don't know how many times that if he can just master that strike zone, there's a little cutter to a right-hander up in the zone. That's a good pitch. I'm not sure I've ever seen him throw that pitch before. There's another little cutter he threw to a left-hander. So add that cutter to that good sweeping slider, if you will, and he has been in the strike zone. There's another cutter. There's that theme again, throwing strikes. Give Dave Anderson a tremendous amount of credit, and I also think it has to do with the catching staff too. That is Frank Rodriguez catching there, who is a wonderful young man, and I actually highlighted him the other day. One of the most well-respected players in the organization, just does what the organization asked him to do each and every day. He shows up. So Suarez struck out 3 of the 4 outs he recorded Saturday night, and he has 61 strikeouts in 47.2 innings. That shouldn't surprise you. He's always had that strikeout stuff, but how about this? He's allowed just 3 runs in his last 19.2 innings, and with those 21 strikeouts that he's had in those 19.2 innings, just 4 walks. That's the big deal for Christian Suarez. He has great stuff, so it's great to see. How about Ronan Kopp, man? You talk about left-handed relievers, man. Right there, you got Christian Suarez, you got Jack Dreyer, you got Ronan Kopp, you got Franklin De La Paz. Man, the Great Lakes Loons, they have any kind of pitcher you could possibly. Look at that confidence from Ronan Kopp. Hitter walking off. Like, what do you do with that? There's that backdoor little cutter slider type pitch from Kopp. Great pitch. Fastball up in the zone. Just got in on the hands of the right-handed hitter. 2 strikeouts in his 1 inning Saturday night. Very dominant end zone stuff against very good hitters for West Michigan. Dude has potential through the roof. Whatever role they want to use him, he's been a starter forever. He's been a reliever as of late. But, hey, he's been good in whatever role they've used him in. ERA 2.99, 107 Ks, 72.1 innings, average against just 184. So Ronan Kopp has been dominant. His end zone stuff has been absolutely dominant. There's that feature on Frank Rodriguez right there, that catcher I'm talking about. That's a big hit in the second inning of Saturday night's game. Picked up a huge hit for the Loons. F-Rod, as they called him, one of the most humble, well-liked, hardest-working players in the org. Just like I said earlier, does whatever the org needs him to do. Great to see Frank Rodriguez have success. Every time he does something good, I highlight it because he absolutely deserves it. You know, hey, there's a lot of publications out there that will spend a lot of time on the top prospects, the top 10 prospects, the top 20 prospects, the top 30 prospects, and that is wonderful. Hey, any kind of recognition, published and publicity these guys can get, I'm all down for it. But I think if you follow Dodgers Daily, you know, hey, I'm not biased to those types of publications. I give equal access to every single player in this organization. If you do something that deserves to get highlighted, it doesn't matter if you're in the top 30 or if you're the last player listed in terms of ranking in the entire system, you're going to get equal coverage. I like covering them all. I like showing their grind, and I like highlighting them equally as well. So I love it whenever I get a chance to talk about a guy like Frank Rodriguez, who just kind of sits behind the scenes. He's not real talkative, very humble, and maybe a lot of people haven't heard of him. So anytime I get a chance to highlight him and bring him to the forefront, love to do that. Frank Rodriguez. Wow, Jared Keros, boy, he has really turned a corner. Look at that slider. That is a fantastic pick. 92 to 94. He has the fastball, curveball change, and the slider pitch, and it's end zone. There's a little cutter type pitch. So, hey, list is 4 pitches, but you could really say it's upwards to 6 because he can throw that get me over slider like you saw there. He can throw the 4-seam up. Then he can manipulate the slider like we saw with Ryan Pepio talking about the other day to make it look like a couple of different pitches based on the count. So, Jared Keros coming out of that 6-7 frame when he hits that 4 slot, that is a really, really good pitch. And boy, has he been fantastic. He went 4 innings on Sunday, 3 strikeouts, just 3 hits. And his ERA with the Loons is just, check this out, 0.69 since he's got brought up to high-A Great Lakes. His whip is 0.67. That's since just, look at that great slider. That's just since he got brought up. And keep in mind, he was the California League Pitcher of the Month when he was with Rancho. So this young man, you've already seen the 2 different shapes to his slider. You've seen the smaller cutterish look right there. You saw the bigger slider whenever he has a pitcher's count, and then the 4-seam up. So what a great year Jared Keros is having. Got you in on the ground floor of Peter Hubeck. I interviewed him. He was one of the first players I talked to, and it was right after he got drafted out of Gilman High School there in the Baltimore area, and he was just a string bean. He weighed about 165, 170 pounds. The first thing he said was, my goal is I want to get to 190 or above. Look at that great slider. I want to be 94 to 96 on the fastball, and lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, we are watching Peter Hubeck grow up right in front of our eyes. We are seeing all of that come to fruition. He had 2 strikeouts on Sunday, 1 walk. He has 14 Ks, just 3 walks in his last 3 outings. That spans 12 innings. And as we've seen in this video, he is throwing strikes with multiple pitches. So like I said earlier, it is super fun to watch Peter Hubeck grow up right in front of our own eyes. Sauron Lau is a converted infielder. He threw a scoreless inning for Great Lakes on Sunday. Great athlete, a lot of arm side tail to his ball. Look at that tail right there. That's going to play as he continues. He's still just learning how to pitch and the intricacies of it, just using his athletic ability and his arm strength right now. Good tail right there. That's going to play as he continues to refine exactly the type of pitcher he was. He had an ERA in July of just 0.66. Plus, he has a good slider that turns left and a little cutter pitch. So, hey, keep your eye out for Sauron Lau. We've seen Juan Murillo hit 100 this year, and he has that good slider, too. So, keep your eye out on him. Juan Murillo, you've seen him, he can do swing and miss with 2 strikes. He can throw it in the zone. There's that 4-seam up in the zone that can challenge 100 miles an hour. One of the hardest throwing relievers in the minor leagues. So, hey, Juan Murillo had a good outing for for High A Great Lakes. So keep an eye out for Juan Murillo. I absolutely love it whenever Carlos De Los Santos is in high leverage situations. This dude, he gets adrenaline and he just rides it, and he is so good and so fun to watch in those high leverage situations. Hey, West Michigan, this was the 9th inning. They got a bunch of guys on. They were needing to rally. They had to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're at home in front of a packed crowd, and he just absolutely slammed the door, and he approached 100 miles an hour doing it. So great job, Carlos De Los Santos. So there you have it, a very busy show today. I want to thank Austin Brubaker for joining as he does each and every Monday. I hope you enjoyed our mailbag. I hope you tune in again the next time we're on, which will be Wednesday morning. Going to talk to Ryan Falla about the Quakes. Going to talk to Austin Brubaker about the Great Lakes Loons. I've got Oklahoma City and Tulsa covered, so all the coverage there, plus our coverage of the Los Angeles Dodgers, so make sure and tune in for that. Hey, just want to remind you, we are open for business. If you or somebody you know has a business that you would like to help sponsor this show with, just email me at dodgersdaily73@gmail.com. That's dodgersdaily73@gmail.com. Or you can just leave a comment, or you can DM me on one of my social media platforms. Also, don't forget to turn on your notifications and then leave a like, leave a comment. Don't forget to interact with this video so YouTube thinks it's a video that you like. It suggests it more, and then it gets more views, and we can keep growing and keep doing what we love to do, which is providing videos like this in the future. So as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and say, go Dodgers.